Hi, good morning. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so I'm Rania Potter and I'm from Louisiana. I'm a 3-year attorney. I graduated from law school in 2022. I went to Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Currently, I work as a federal law clerk in the Eastern District of Louisiana. And I'm just really excited to be here and share some knowledge with y'all.
Okay, next we're gonna have Jordan.
Hi, can you all hear me well? Okay, perfect. Well, hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Jordan Braithwaite. I'm currently a TUA attending Howard University School of Law. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I went to undergrad at Grambling State University. So really all across the board, and I have a lot of love for HBCUs and really just happy to be here, share some powerful gems because like Jada mentioned, I was in you guys' shoes at one point, struggling and really trying to find outlets of getting more advice and exposure on how to make it this far and get into law school. So really excited to really pay it forward and be here today.
Thank you, Jordan. And next we're gonna have Tamia.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tamia Burnside. I'm a 3L at Howard University School of Law. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I went to Clark Atlanta University for undergrad. I was a poli-sci major, criminal justice minor, and yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you, Tamia. And next we have Kimberly.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kimberly McCoy. I'm actually from Westchester, New York. I attend Cumberland School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama. I went to Georgia State University for undergrad in Atlanta, and I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you, Kimberly. So I'm super excited. These panelists, when they texted me, was like, "Hey, I'd love to be a part." I'm like, "Yes, thank you," because this is exactly who I need, like some heavy hitters, and I'm so excited because I couldn't have chose better panelists. So I'm super thankful for you guys being here and being just so nice to me, and just willing to do this for us. So we're gonna go ahead and start the panel. I know it's been a long awaited time. Everybody's been waiting for this. So the opening of this panel is going to be talking about preparing for law school and the dreaded LSAT that everybody wants to know about. So we're just going to go ahead and start asking the questions. So our first question is for Tamia, and the question is, what are the best tips for doing well on the LSAT and writing a compelling personal statement?
Okay, so I'm gonna break it up. I'm gonna start off with the LSAT portion. I think the biggest thing that helped me improve from my first time was consistency. I feel like a lot of people go into the LSAT thinking like, oh, I'm gonna study 9 hours on the weekend or 9 hours each day on specifically the weekend, and then during the weekday don't study. But I think for me, it was consistency rather like minimum 2 hours per day rather than just, oh, I studied 9 hours on a Saturday and then you forget everything on Monday and Tuesday. So just consistency, I think that'll help. And also doing practice tests because I think a lot of people didn't, I'm sure you took the LSAT. A lot of people didn't know going into the LSAT how long it would be and what a full practice test would look like. And I know when I first took it, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. So I would say do as many practice tests as possible. So when you sit down for that LSAT, it's like you've done it a million times before and you can get through it. And as far as personal statement goes, I would say your personal statement should read as a story. This should be the time where you're pouring your life out, your reason, your why you want to choose this law school so they can get more of who you are as a person rather than like you just regurgitating your resume or your cover letter. That should be just your story. And as far as some tips goes, I'm going to drop the podcast in the chat. I know there's a lot of influencers who are meeting with these the deans of admissions at each law school, and they're kind of describing what they're looking for in a personal statement. So I'm gonna drop one in the chat, but I would definitely just try to reach out to some alum, also see if you can meet up with the dean and see what they're looking for. But I think overall it should be your story, your why. And then my last tip, if you're specifically looking for a certain school like Howard, for example, I would do some research on Howard. Look at their trial ad teams, look at their clinics, and incorporate that in your personal statement so it looks like it's tailored towards the school. And I think they're more inclined to pick someone who has a plan once they come to Howard, if that makes sense.
Yes, I'll definitely be reaching out to y'all on this panel to read my personal statement, but definitely with the LSAT because I know I was like, oh, I'm already smart. I could just cram all this. I was sadly humbled and mistaken. So thank you for that tip because that's what I did not know when I began studying for the LSAT. So the next question is going to be for Kimberly. And the question is, as someone studying for the LSAT and still figuring out which law schools to apply to, what advice would you give for building confidence in this process, especially when you're unsure if you're good enough?
So for this question, it's mainly just about confidence. So confidence really comes from preparation and giving yourself credit for just showing up in the first place. Nobody ever really feels good enough in the beginning, but the more consistent you are and the more you realize that you belong in those spaces, that's how you'll just be able to get through it. For me specifically, my LSAT journey was pretty rough. I took the LSAT 3 times and it just seemed like it just couldn't click for me. But eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give it to God because He's the one who gave it to me that I'm going to be a lawyer one day. And I took it the last time, got the score that I wanted, and I got into more than enough law schools to choose from. So, mhm.
That's so good. Yes, I'm definitely giving it to God. Like he actually needs to come down and take the test for me because I'm like, I can't do this, but I'm gonna do it though. So the next question is for Jordan. So the question is, please name one aspect of your law school application that you believe gave you a competitive edge.
Yes, and actually to that point, I really want to consider like holistically my application, kind of like, as already been mentioned, like as Black women, let me just start there. With really us being Black women, we already know that we're multifaceted women, that we have so many talents and so many outlets to just really showcase who we are. And so I really wanted to replicate that throughout my entire application. I said, not only am I going to show you who I am authentically in my personal statement, but I'm going to show you that in my resume. Like, so my passion, just giving a little background on myself, is that I'm really passionate about voting rights and civic engagement and really providing that education to the community. And so I wanted that to be replicated and really tailor that into each and every law school that I applied to. And I feel like it gave me that competitive edge that you mentioned because I was able to showcase who I am outside of just being a student. I was able to showcase my talent, the thing that lets me thrive and let the law school know, like, here's who I am as a person and not just as an applicant. And it made me it was able to allow me to stand out of just like my grades or my LSAT scores and really just get to see what I have to bring to the law school, how I can bring this passion and elevate it to the law school. And so that's why my biggest advice is don't just hone in on the LSAT or don't hone in on just one piece of the application, but really make sure that you're being intentional with just pouring into each and every aspect of it, even including your letter of recommendations, making sure that when you're talking to your professors or when you're talking to whomever that you are seeking out to get a letter of recommendation, making sure they can also talk to your passion. They can lift you up and really elevate who you are as a person. Because we all can provide the grades, we all can provide the LSATs, but what are you outside of that? And I really just wanted to showcase that. And I feel like that helped me in an advantage in that way.
Yes, Jordan, that's so good. I'm definitely this application cycle, I'm being more intentional about like being active and showing them who I am outside of my grades because it's much more than that, just being smart. Everybody's smart, but who are you outside of your grades? So thank you for that, Jordan. I'm definitely going to take that into account. So our next question is for Renaya. So the question is, what is a skill you think we should try to develop before attending law school?
Okay, so there's actually a book called So You Want to Be a Lawyer. A lot of people recommend that book, so that's I think a good starting place for aspiring lawyers. Also, I think you would want to start learning how to think like a lawyer. So really work on your analytical reasoning skills. And I think you do that by like questioning everything. Don't take anything for face value. Me as a lawyer, I question everything and everybody. And it's a little annoying sometimes, but it is something that I developed through my law school career and being an attorney. Also, I just want to give my spiel on the LSAT since we're on the topic because I also took the LSAT 3 times. And my highest score was a 150, which is an okay score, but it's not, great. And I mean, look at me now. I'm a federal law clerk. So I would say, and I graduated top of my class. So I would say that the LSAT isn't, in my opinion, a huge indicator of your law school success or, your success as an attorney.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. I used to think that, like being an overthinker and being over analytical was my downfall, but I'm using that to my advantage, like as I become a lawyer and just really be molded into like that like lawyer mindset. So our next question is for Kimberly, and it is, do you have any tips for time management in reference to completing LSAT questions?
Yes, I'm a big stickler for honestly scheduling out your time. So before even just studying for the LSAT, like make sure that you have a calendar of like during your day on like what you're doing before you're gonna study, what time you're gonna study, what days you're gonna study, and what you're gonna study. But what helped me the most with studying for the LSAT is using strict timers. So I use the Pomodoro method, and it just feels natural eventually, just to keep on having that timing of like how the LSAT's going to be. It would also help me break down sections into smaller drills, and it made it less overwhelming and helped me with the stamina over time. So definitely a Pomodoro timer for sure.
Yes, can you, if you can, Kimberly, please write that name in the chat so that the girls can see what the method is called.
Of
Thank you,
course.
Kimberly. So the next question is for Tamia, and it is, what are some do's and don'ts of professional networking?
Okay, I'll start off with the do's. I would say the first thing y'all should do coming into law school is create a LinkedIn. I think that's like the biggest thing that helped me get my jobs and reach out to a plethora of attorneys. Make a LinkedIn like before you get into law school. In addition to that, I would say really be excited when it comes down to reaching out to people. Like really go for it. Reach out to attorneys, reach out to law students, and really push for coffee dates or virtual coffee dates. I've had that happen with me a few times where people will be like, oh, can we just do a virtual coffee date and we'll just hop on Zoom and just chit chat. I think that's a good way to network. I would also say when you go to these networking events, make sure you follow up because yeah, they remember you when you're talking to them, but their lives are busy. So after you go leave a networking event, reach out via email, reach out via LinkedIn. Hey, this is so and so. I met you here. I really enjoyed this portion of our conversation. Would love to follow up and have a chat later on if your availability allows so. So I would say do stuff like that to make yourself memorable because they're going to be meeting a lot of people at these networking events. As far as don'ts, um, I recommend this for everybody when it comes down to drinking at these social events because you'll learn when you come to law school, there's a lot of like networking events where there's happy hours and stuff like that. I wouldn't say don't drink, but I would be mindful of how much you drink because sometimes the lawyers will encourage you, oh, have another drink because they're already attorneys. But just be careful because all eyes are on you if they're watching you. And sometimes it's like a test. So that's one of the things I would say. And also be mindful how you act when you walk in a building. So a lot of these events are happening at these law firms. So how you treat the receptionist, how you treat the security guards, how you treat everyone matters because they will ask, like if you're doing an interview, they'll ask the receptionist, how did you like so and so? And all that stuff matters. So you're kind of like being monitored the moment you walk in, if that makes sense. So just make sure you treat everyone with respect and treat them nicely. And then I would say lastly, I think that's really it as far as do's and don'ts. Be yourself, obviously. Be mindful of people's time. So if you decide to set up an event, make sure you're on time because first impressions matter. I don't care what nobody says, first impressions matter. So just keep that in mind. And just be intentional. So if you know you want to work in a specific field of law, whether it's criminal law, sports, entertainment, go out on LinkedIn and find that person and reach out and let them know what you want to do. And 9 times out of 10, they're willing to help you.
Thank you, Tamia. So our next question is going to be for Renaya, and it says, what tips do you have for navigating a law school career financially? As a daughter of immigrants, I am finding all of this overwhelming, and taking out school loans scare me.
So for me, I was blessed enough to have a good bit of help from my family as far as finances. So my mom was a single mom with 3 kids. She wasn't getting much help from my dad at the time, and she had, I mean, just an average paying job. We were like a lower a lower middle class household. So when I was beginning my law school journey, I did feel like a bit of guilt because I felt like I was putting an extra financial strain on her, especially when I realized that I couldn't work to support myself throughout law school. Um, but we basically sat down and we had an understanding, and she basically let me know, like, look, you just focus on school and I'll take care of anything else. Like, you will repay me by getting your degree. So that took a lot of, I think, financial strain from me. Also, I was fortunate enough to not, I didn't have to take out any loans in undergrad because I had scholarships and grants. So I really didn't start taking out loans until I got into law school. So what I did was I took out enough loans to cover my tuition and also to live off of. So, and I also had some law school scholarships too that was paying for a portion of my tuition. So every semester I had maybe $15,000 to $20,000 to live off of. I didn't have to pay my car insurance because my mom was paying it. I didn't have to pay a phone bill because my mom was paying it. So all I really was responsible for was my rent, which was like $500 because I had roommates. My car was paid for in cash, so I didn't have a car note. So I would just say all the way around, try to keep your expenses low. You know, you don't need the newest car. You don't need to be, buying all type of luxury items. Cut back in certain areas. I think like kind of stay down until you come up is the name of the game, honestly, especially when you're in law school. I would say also try to take advantage of as many scholarship opportunities that you can. Try to get some paid internships. That's what I did during my law school career. And I just kind of also hustled on the side. Like it was a point in time when I was like, doing bottle girl jobs on the weekends. I had attorneys paying me to do their social media content. That was also like a small source of income for me. So I think those are the things that I would say that kind of helped me navigate financially throughout law school.
Thank you, Renaya. Definitely got to stay down till you come up. So our next question is for Kimberly, and it says, how do I push past being unsuccessful on the LSAT 4 times?
Okay, so I have a few tips for this question, but first I want to say taking the LSAT multiple times doesn't mean that you failed. It just shows that you have resilience and you have determination. But I'll go to my 4 things. One, practice self care. Self care is so important. You don't want to ever run empty. You want to be able to fill yourself up because the LSAT does take a lot when it comes to studying and even taking the exam. Two, step back and honestly reassess what hasn't been working. Sometimes with me, if I have like a little tip or if I have something that I've always been doing the same, I'm like a little bit stubborn with like, oh no, I think it works. I just need to take more time. But honestly, be really honest with yourself to see if it's really working or if it's not. Three, pivot your study strategy by trying new resources or approaches. And four, remind yourself that persistence is exactly what will make you successful in law school and beyond.
Yes, I one thing I can say, I improved on my LSAT score by switching the study method and by switching even from 7 Sage to LSAT Demon. I was a little bit leery of the name because I'm a Christian lady, but it works for me. This is much better, and I started improving. So you also have to know the type of student you are and how best you study and retain information. So that definitely helps. So thank you, Kimberly, for that. So now we're going to be switching gears and we're going to be talking about thriving during law school. I know that we have a lot of 1Ls that are on or just in the Juris Girls in general. So we're going to start by asking Jordan, how did you prepare mentally and emotionally for your first semester of law school?
Perfect. And thank you for that question. I actually did have like one little tip that I wanted to drop in the chat. So I also during undergrad, I was a LSAT plus scholar. So I know that we were just talking about like finances and trying to figure out ways of trying because like just studying and applying for law schools in itself is its own huge big expense. And while you're in college, like that might be a lot of pressure. So I was a LSAT plus scholar and essentially in this program, we were considered like zero L's and we got the opportunity, the exposure to take like over the summer for 4 weeks, like legal writing and con law, and basically we just got exposure to what law school would be like. And on top of that, or coming out of that, we were able to get 2 fee waivers to like be able to be applied for the LSAT for free and not having to worry about that. So I was just going to drop that in the chats because I want to make sure like and they take all applicants in undergrad. So I just wanted to drop that gem in there if anybody's trying to figure out ways to get fee waivers, because fee waivers can also help with like if you want to use 7 Sage or like we were talking about LSAT Demon. If you show them proof of a fee waiver, they'll give you both of those platforms to my knowledge for free. And so that's just another resource to where you can use these very vital platforms to study for the LSAT without coming out of pocket. And then to your question about just how I was able to emotionally and mentally prepare myself for 1L, I'm glad you asked that because I am a 2L. And so I did just come out of that and I'm already starting to see what they talk about with 2L kind of being the same thing, but just you're taking the classes that you enjoy because this is still a little too much, but we're trying to still smile each day. But honestly, I really was just intentional. Like the moment I found out that I got accepted into Howard, Howard was my number one choice. I was very intentional saying, I need to be here. I want to go here. As soon as I got that acceptance letter, I immediately was praising God and I turned to my faith. And I would say that that helped me so much. Like, I was able to buy like this big poster of like Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. And I was just using that to constantly remind myself. I like to have like scriptures like up around my apartment so that while I'm like walking around, I can be able to see those like words of encouragement. And so I was just doing a lot of that over the summer. I also too, before I started in 1L, I really was just focusing on just relaxing. I kept hearing from like mentors and people that I would talk to. I'd also recommend that like seeking out mentors. You don't just have to have one specific mentor if your law school provides you, because I know you mentioned 1Ls on the call. I'm sure like all of the law schools, like they provide like 1L mentors for the 1Ls. And so you don't have to just stick to exclusively those mentors. You can also feel comfortable to seek other mentors. You can have a mentor that you go to when you just need like a prayer warrior over you, or if you need somebody for different aspects of your life. And so I would just say, don't be afraid to go out, especially when you're reaching out and you're building these relationships with people, to ask them if they would be comfortable having like a mentorship relationship with you too, because that helped me so much having people I could talk to that have already been through the things that I'm going through, and that could constantly just give me the encouragement to know that just like they did, I'm going to get through 1L as well. And then just obviously like anytime in stress, just immediately going into prayer and just going and turning to the Bible. It helped me so much. It's like that being my outlet so that I didn't have to worry about stressing too much my 1L year, because I knew that God had already prepared and had called me for this moment. I wouldn't have got this far just to get this far. Sorry, I'm not trying to do too much, but honestly, like I just had to keep reminding myself like I had gotten this far and I know that it doesn't stop here, just like everybody else, just like some incredible, amazing Black women that have come before me and that were able to conquer the law school journey. I will be able to do the same exact thing, just like you all will be able to, because we all had a calling that was implanted in us. That's my spiel. I'm gonna be quiet now because I know I kind of went on a tangent. When I get to talking about the Lord and Savior, I can go on for days, honestly.
No, Jordan, that almost made me cry. Like, yes, please put that scripture, the Joshua scripture in the chat so that we can all write it down and meditate on that because I need that. I feel like sometimes like the fear mongering becomes a lot with people like, oh, when you get to law school, it's going to be so hard and you're not going to be able to manage it and you're going to be anxious and all these things. And I know it's going to be a lot, but I want to go in knowing that like I got this far because God got me here and he's going to take me through the whole journey. So thank you so much for sharing your faith with us and showing us that you're smart, yes, but God is really who is keeping you up and holding you up while you're in law school. So thank you for that, Jordan. So our next question is going to be for Tamia. And the question is, what specific challenges have you faced in your law classes, and what strategies have you found most effective in overcoming them?
Oof. There were so many challenges I faced, especially my 1L year coming in. But I think the biggest challenge was like digesting the curriculum. Because like a lot of the cases that you're looking at, one, you've probably never read a case before. And two, you're starting from cases that happened in the 1940s, like really old cases. So it was really hard to digest what you're reading. And you're reading about 60 pages per class. And as a 1L, you'll have like 5 classes. So I know for me, how I got through that was supplements. I didn't have the luxury of knowing what supplements were my 1L year, but basically supplements help you take what was in the case law and either through a video or a lecture, reteach it to you so it's digestible. So Studicata, Quimby, Barbary, Themis, these are all supplements. I'll put them in the chat, but they help me like really take what I was learning and put it in layman terms, whether I was a video or a podcast, and it made it more interactive. And I was like, okay, I get what Conlaw was talking about, or I get what Torts was talking about. So that's what helped me with that. And another challenge I had was kind of like adjusting to each professor. What y'all learn is that when you do a final for a professor, each professor likes their writing different. Some professors like you to give the answer up front. Some professors like you to think it through and then give the conclusion at the end. And it's kind of hard to adjust to all 5 professors. So how I figured out how to do it was going to office hours, being besties with the professors, really asking them, okay, so what exactly are you looking for? And in addition to that, I would say doing practice exams. So that's going to be your best friend on the LSAT and even in law school. I did like practice exams, bring it to the professor and let them tear it to shreds. Like, I don't like this. I think you should add this up here. I'll take that and I'll redo it and then I'll give it to them. And then once they give me, oh, this looks good, I know when it comes down to finals, this is what this professor wants. When I see this issue, I know how to attack it. So that's another thing. And then lastly, I dealt with the issue of cold calls, public speaking, thinking on my toes. And the way I handled that was I joined Trial Ad. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, I have social anxiety bad, but I put myself in a position where I had no choice but to deal with that discomfort. And it made me better in regards to like communicating and being able to be able to speak in public fine. And I think joining Trial Ad or Moot Court or just any opportunity that allowed me to do public speaking really helped me improve in that skill. And cold calls are nothing now, girl. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Thank you, Tamia. Yes, I can't tell that you have social anxiety because you're an amazing speaker. So the moot court worked. But the next question is for Kimberly. And it says, what is the best way to navigate final season?
So this kind of goes back to what Jordan was saying before of being grounded in faith. That honestly is the only way that I get through final season every single semester. But other than that, it's kind of a little bit similar to my advice for the LSAT, having a realistic study schedule and a schedule early. So I try to not only have my outlines somewhat like let me rephrase this. I start to make sure that I have my outlines. I start working on them in October, and I'll try to be done with them or up to date each week. So by the time that final season comes, I can even start studying like a month before finals even occur and to stick to that schedule as best as I can. And it's the same thing with having self care. So that's either sleeping, working out, taking a walk, walking your dog, just taking care of yourself because you're going to want to be in the books all the time, but you have to give your brain a break. And then also, I literally just lost my thought, but it's really just knowing when to okay, I got my thought. Also, just learn to know how to take a break. Law school can be a lot, and sometimes you're just like, okay, I just need a break. Like, I know I have class this Thursday, but I just need a break. I'm not saying to miss your class now, but they do give you excused number of absences for this. So if you are like having a really bad mental day, take a break. See if you could talk to somebody. Lean on someone in church, lean on your family, lean on some of your friends that are not even in law school. And that's my advice.
Thank you, Kimberly. Our next question is for Renaya, and it's what is your opinion on bar prep methods?
Okay, so for me personally, I was a Barbary girl. Um, and Southern University Law Center actually paid for our bar prep courses for us. For my class, I don't know how if they done it for every other class, but for my class they did. So shout out to Southern because that saved me like $1,300. Um, but yeah, I just follow Barbary through and through. Most of my bar prep studying consisted of practice tests. Like 75 to 80% of the time, I was just only doing practice tests. So I tell everybody, like, don't focus so much on trying to memorize the material. Focus on trying to master the exam. And you do that through repetition and constantly retaking these practice exams. So I really started, I guess, somewhat preparing for the bar during my 3L years. So when I was preparing for those 3L exams, I was taking old bar questions from that particular area, and I was looking at that, and I was answering those bar exam questions in preparation for my law school exams. So I was exposing myself to how these questions are actually asked on the bar exam. But one thing I had to learn was that law school writing and writing for the bar is like two different writing styles. And especially in Louisiana, the Louisiana bar exam is very like exam question, like essay question heavy. So I had to learn how to tailor my writing style from law school writing to bar writing. So that's kind of how I prepare for the bar. Other than that, I like to study by myself. I didn't have a study group. I didn't do none of that. I just was like to myself, library, um, note cards. I like whiteboards, like writing out things on the whiteboards. And yeah, that was pretty much it. And I just kept my faith, talked to God a lot, and God told me that I would pass. So I just didn't have any anxiety or nervousness going into it. And that was pretty much it.
That's so good. Congratulations on passing the bar, even though that was already previous, but that's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And the next question is for Jordan, and it is, what role did mentorship play in your law school experience, and how can aspiring law students begin to build those kinds of relationships?
Absolutely. So it played a pivotal role, kind of like what I was mentioning earlier. I really wanted to hone in my experience in law school, focus on relationship buildings. And I feel like where I am now as a 2L and a lot of the opportunities that I've been blessed with, it comes and being able to serve in these capacities comes through relationship building. And so anytime like I wanted to, or I was like seeking out or even just interested in a role that I potentially could have been passionate in, I would go in someone who's already fulfilled that role, or I would reach out to someone who like I wanted to say, hey, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. I know that you've done X, Y, and Z. So could you talk to me more about that experience? But I also was focusing on not just being so transactional, but actually just wanting to get to know that person, just to get to know them. Because I really feel like when you're able to authentically just show up in a relationship, it's a two-sided relationship. And that's how I look at mentorship as well. I look at it as you're pouring things into each other. It's not just a mentor mentor pouring into the mentee can also provide and give opportunities to the mentor. And so I was always, when whatever relationship or opportunity, I would kind of preference that or give a little disclaimer, like, just want to let you know, like, if you need a prayer or if you need anything, I'm here for you as well. And like, I could tell that that went a long way as far as allowing my mentors to know that it wasn't just them pouring into me, it was also me pouring into them. Because I'll be fully transparent, a lot of the times I did seek out mentors that were Black women because I knew that we just have like a unique way of showing up for each other and really helping each other out and really paying it forward and really opening those doors up that we need. And so I wanted to, and I also know like our experience in itself is fully like just in its own path. Like we have our own experience through law school and just really in the legal profession. And so I was very intentional with saying, I want to speak to Black women. I'm inspired by all Black women. And I know that I want to fulfill them the same way that they could fulfill me. And so kind of going back to the point about LinkedIn, I would kind of utilize that as like a platform for myself to do like those cold emails or cold messages to really talk to people and kind of build those relationships organically through there. Because all it took was just like, I would say it's better to do than to not do, and to just worry. So don't worry so much about the, oh, what if they don't respond, or what if I don't hear anything from them. There is a big possibility that they will see it and they will respond. And now you've had a relationship blossom from that. So my biggest advice is utilize LinkedIn if you haven't already created a LinkedIn, and really just start. Don't worry about shooting your shot because it'll be okay. There is a big possibility that someone will see that, and you never know what can come from that relationship. It could take you so much farther than you even anticipated. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and just ask for advice.
Yes, that's so good. I be shooting my shot. I do not care. I will be in Kamala Harris DM like, I need you to write me a recommendation letter. But yeah, so I don't be scared at all. Like I feel like confidence does go a long way, but also just being genuine, like not always needing to take something from somebody, but just being like a genuine person, that goes a long way. So the next question is for Tamia, and it is, how did you go about finding housing for law school?
So my school had an Excel spreadsheet for my class when I first came in, and it had all the list of like housing. But in addition to that, I reached out to current students. So like Jordan said, went on LinkedIn, got on a phone call and was like, hey, do you know any housing near Howard? And then they'll like give me a list. Oh, my friend stays here. This is the areas where most of the hustle people stay. And that's how I found my housing now in Silver Spring. Almost everybody I know from Howard lives in Silver Spring. And then also look at the outskirts. Like try not to live so close to the school if you have a car, obviously. Yeah. So for me, I knew I had a car so I can live in Maryland and not in DC. So I looked at the outskirts and it was a lot more affordable than living in DC or near the schools. So that's kind of how I found mine.
Okay, yes, I know a lot of people that go to Howard say to live along the red line. So also like do your research about it, like what other people say on TikTok or whatever, and just reach out. So the next question is for Kimberly, and it says, how do you take care of your mental health and avoid burnout in such a demanding program?
So this kind of goes back to what I was saying for the last question. It's really just, for me, it was just taking time to just breathe, knowing what my limits were, taking my mental health days, even leaning on the therapists that they provide at your university. So law students also have access to the counseling center as well, and you don't have to pay out of pocket. So that is something that is definitely beneficial. You can go in person, and also you can go remote, because I know that it is a little bit hectic with scheduling. But other than that, it's really just leaning on your support and really just going to church and just knowing when you just need to take a breather.
Yes, and just knowing yourself, like if you know that you got a little bit of anxiety rising up, like that's when you need to just take your little break. So definitely use that method. So the next question is for Jordan, and it says, what's been your experience finding community and support both academically and personally in law school?
Absolutely. So it kind of goes back to my last point, but really when I was over the summer, like preparing and getting ready for my 1L year last year, I asked myself, I said, what do you want your law school journey to look like? What do you want that experience to be? Not what anybody else says on TikTok. Because I know like last year around that time, like all I had was TikTok and seeing other people's experience. I was like, that's cool and all, but what do I want for myself? Because I realized like during my time here at law school is that everybody's journey looks completely different. Like we're all going and taking the same courses, we're learning from probably different professors, and we're still studying this like legal education, but it's all different. The way that we study, our approach to doing how we do on exams, our approach to writing, our approach to reaching out to people, everything looks different. And so I really had to just be intentional and kind of talk to myself like, what is my study preference when I'm thinking about like academics? Like, do I like to study with a group? Do I like to study by myself? Some people have said that they like to study like using the whiteboard. Do I like to study using the whiteboard? Some people like to immediately start using practice exams. Do I want to wait first? Like, it's just kind of those different questions that made me realize like I'm a completely different person, and what has worked for other people might not work for me. But I was always open to just learning and getting the exposure of listening to other people's stories, so that way I could kind of see if and just try really do trial and error and figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And that's kind of something I'm still doing at this point because the journey isn't over. And so I really just like try something new out, see if it works for me, and I keep going. But I realized that law school, more than anything, is really a self discovery of who you are as a person. What kind of lawyer do you want to show up and be as or present yourself as? And so I think that's also helped me a lot, just finding community like personally, because like at Hustle, like it's not hard to find community when you realize like you're able to go out and really connect and network with your fellow classmates or even upperclassmen, and everybody's just really super supportive. And I think that was something, well, I know that was something I was really intentional with trying to figure out when I was picking a law school. I was based on what I seen and heard from other people. I really was able to see like Howard specifically in my eyes stood out as far as not just being a platform or a place where you can gain that legal education like other law schools, but it was somewhere that was really just like honing in on like that alumni building and just really honing in on the relationships that we have with our alumni network. And like something like that, going back to like preparing for how I studied and applied for the law school, I was talking about those things, like making sure that I could find ways to align my interests with what I saw that Howard had to offer. And I said, I want to be at a law school that I can be happy at. I know it's very hard to think that how can you be happy in law school, but I can confidently say that, like, regardless of how challenging, like, the academics have been, it's just like getting and trying to understand this new world. I'm really just grateful for being in a place where I have people that are looking out for you. Like, another thing we hone in on at Howard is that we don't do that competitive nature at all. Like, we're going to look out for each other. If you need the notes for class, you got them. If you need an outline, like we're going to be there to support you. We're like we could, because we realize like at the end of the day that we're all we have. And so it was kind of questions like that that I would ask myself as I was preparing over the summer, because it's very hard to not do something I've realized for myself and just to sit in a space and be like, I'm just going to relax. Because I feel like it's, and even as Black women, we're always just like trying to work, see how we can conquer the next thing. And so that was my little way of trying to buy time, but also not do too much over the summer. Was ask myself those questions, and it really helped me find the community once I started.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. And I love what you said about the trial and error. For me, I know personally, I am not gonna be able to do study groups because I'll be talking the whole time. It's gonna be a party, and we ain't gonna get that done. So I already know I don't even gotta go through that. But definitely trial and error, y'all. But thank you so much, Jordan. So for the next question, it's for Tamia, and it says, "Do you find it difficult to balance outside hobbies and activities while also being in law school?"
I can say as a 1L, when I first started, it was hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very difficult because you spend most of your time reading, trying to catch up, trying to understand. But I think at some point you get the gist of it and you become type A. If you're not type A now, I'm not gonna lie to you, coming to law school is gonna make you type A. You're gonna be planning out your days. And I think that's how I'm able to balance both, is planning out what my week looks like. So I know for Sundays, that's my rest day. I go to church, I hang out with my girls, we have a girls' night, and I set that day to rest. And then for the weekends or Friday and Saturday, I get all my readings done. You have to be disciplined about this too. I get all my readings done. So Monday all the way through Thursday, it's just more so like supplements, making sure I understand the concepts. And if I do want to go to a happy hour or hang out with some friends, I have the time to do so because I'm not reading. So it's just really just playing with your schedule. You'll have a calendar you'll start off with, and then you'll eventually adjust it to as you see fit. But I think just going in law school, planning what your weeks look like, what your days look like, will help you be able to balance both. It's possible, I promise you. Like, I'm doing clinic now, captain of the trial ad team. I'm doing a lot, but I still have time to go hang out with my girls, and I still have time for my rest days on Sunday. Just plan it and you'll be fine.
Definitely. So be a type A person and be a planner. That's going to help you thrive. That's so good. Thank you for that. So the next question is for Jordan again, and it's what's one piece of advice you think every incoming law student should hear?
The biggest thing I always say, it goes back actually to that point, like remembering that growth is about trial and error, and that there will be times, even like when you're studying and preparing just to get into law school, like you're going to face adversity. There will be challenges, but know that you can overcome that. Really, growth, I've realized, is the best way that I've seen growth for myself is when I'm able to realize that it's just doing my best with what I know at that time until I can get better, and just constantly being open to feedback, especially when it comes from like your professors or like just anybody that has already experienced what you're experiencing. It like law school will teach you in a lot of cases to humble yourself. Like there will be instances where you just have to say, I don't know everything, and that's okay, but I am going to work to do better. Like, and that's having that mindset and just being open to like feedback, and being able to know that I'm going to practice. I'm going to really just assess everything that I need to do. And it's not going to always be perfect, but I'm going to keep showing up and really just showing up for yourself each and every day. You will overcome and you will do law school, because in a lot of cases, how I've seen law school is really all just about trial and error and just practicing as much as possible.
Thank you, Jordan, for that. So now we're going to be shifting gears. I know that Renaya is an attorney, so she's literally working in the field now. So the question for you, Renaya, is how did you decide what area of law to practice?
Okay, so I'll be honest, I still haven't decided on a specific area of law that I want to practice necessarily. When I was in law school, I thought I wanted to do criminal law and family law. My first job out of law school, I was actually a staff attorney at the family court. And there I realized I don't know if I want to practice family law. And I think like the hard thing about it is you really don't know what you want to do until you're in it, because in law school they just teach you the theory of these things, but law school doesn't teach you how to practice law. And so it's really just trial and error. After my initial job in the family court, I ended up here at in the federal sector, and I think being here has broadened my horizons, because now I'm working with, I can see anything from like a maritime law case to an employment discrimination case, First Amendment, civil rights cases, and then also like I'm also being exposed to some federal criminal cases also. And I think had I been like narrowly tailored to family law, criminal law, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I would say like keep your options open, and don't restrict yourself to just one thing, because I feel like with a law degree the possibilities are endless, y'all. Like y'all can do literally anything with this degree. So I would just say don't limit yourself, and try things out, and don't be afraid to pivot and switch paths if something like isn't for you.
Okay, thank you, Renaya. And we have one more question for you. It is, what would you tell your pre-law self knowing what you know now?
Um, Okay, so when I was reflecting on this question, like I thought back on myself before I started law school, and I was 21 when I started law school, very young. Um, and I think like I didn't know who I was at the time, and I was like stuck between who I was and who I was becoming. And I think it was Jordan that described like the law school experience as an experience of self-discovery, and like I couldn't agree more because who I am when I came out of law school was like a totally different person than when I went in. So if I had to say anything to my former self before law school, I would say like you lack nothing because God has equipped you with everything that you need. And you're just going to be so much more powerful, so much stronger on the other end of this. And just don't doubt yourself. Know that you belong here and that God will see you through.
Thank you so much, Renaya. That is the end of the questions that we've already pre-written down. Thank you so much to our panelists for coming prepared and giving us so many gems and so much information so that we could take it and run with it. At this time, I'm going to allow some additional questions from the audience if you guys have any at all. I just ask that you just use the raise hand button, and then I will call your name, and then you can just ask the specific panelist the question that you have. Okay, we have a question from Aaliyah C. Go ahead, Aaliyah.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all for your time. My question is, I really want to go to North Carolina Central. I have no, interest in big law or any of that. But like, what do I say to somebody that tells me that I'm selling myself short for wanting to go to an HBCU and it won't get me nowhere? Like, how do I respond to that? Especially telling if another Black person is telling me that. Like, what do I say?
Can I chime in on this question?
Yes, Renaya, you can.
Okay, so I felt compelled to answer this question because I actually got accepted to Southern University Law Center, which is an HBCU, and then I also was accepted to LSU Law Center, and I went to LSU for undergrad. So initially, I was somewhat more inclined to choose LSU, and of course, like if you look at bar passage rates and like statistics and everything on paper, LSU did look like the better law school. However, I quickly learned that Southern was best for me in a lot of different ways. And like I said, I'm a federal law clerk. I started off as an extern with the judge that I'm with now. And the only reason that I got this job is because I was a Southern alum. Because actually, the judge that I was working for, her husband was also a Southern alum. So he basically vouched for me and told her, like, hey, you need to give her a job. And I didn't even have to apply for a federal law clerk position. It was given to me just because of where I went to law school and the connections that this HBCU afforded to me. So I was those that came before me, that had my position before me, went to Georgetown, went to UCLA, Yale, like all of these major top tier law schools. And here I am coming from Southern, and I'm doing the same thing that they're doing and better because my clerkship was extended to a 4-year clerkship from a 1-year clerkship. So I would say that once you pass the bar and you become an attorney, where you went to law school really doesn't matter that much because there are lawyers that went to these top Ivy League law schools, and I'm just as capable as them. So I would say don't let anyone discourage you from choosing an HBCU.
Thank you.
I also want to hop into that because also with that conversation, a lot of times these people are trying to downplay HBCU law schools and uplift going to like an Ivy League law school, but they don't talk about what really happens or in full transparency, the outside pressures that you have to go in while you're sitting in that type of law school. Because at an HBCU law school, you're going to be filled with love and encouragement. It's not going to be competitive. But at another law school, and again, it's all about what you feel feel comfortable with. But I have heard stories of there being law students, especially for Black women, sitting in the classroom spaces and not only having to deal with just learning the legal education, but being downplayed as a Black woman. We already deal with so much of that in the outside world, and we're going to continue to face that. And that's why we have to continue to fight. But that's why it's so important that you go to a school, especially when you're getting the legal education, that a school that's going to love and uplift you and that isn't going to put you to the outcast. I will say, going to a HBCU law school, they're very intentional about ensuring that we are able to fulfill all of our dreams and then some. That's why they care so much, and that's why they emphasize that alumni relationship, making sure that, hey, I'm going to make sure I let a hustler get in on this job opportunity because I know the struggle. I know that they need to be in this space. I know they need that representation. And so it's a different kind of like emphasis and focus on our needs that doesn't get addressed at other law schools. So that's why already with that conversation of we're trying to downplay HBCU law schools, we're all learning the same legal education, but it's how you want to learn it. What space and environment do you really want to be in when you're getting this education?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renaya and Jordan. We have a question from Desalyn Swain. You can go ahead, Desalyn.
My question is about the application process. So I guess anybody could answer. Did y'all write separate personal statements for every school that you applied to, or did you just use one?
I can answer this. I used only one, but I did know when I applied to Howard, I tailored my like a certain portion towards Howard because I knew I wanted to do trial ad. I knew I wanted to do the criminal justice clinic, so I made sure I mentioned that. So I know if you're applying to multiple schools and they have certain programs that they're just that you know you want to go to that school for, highlight it in your personal statement. But all that means is just adjusting a little portion, but I kept everything the same.
Okay, Cherie said she has a question. You can go ahead, Cherie.
Hi everybody, my name's Cherie. My question is, I'm a 26-year-old mother, and I wanted to know that, is there is it too late to kind of go to like law school? Because like I know like once I graduated college, like I had in my head like right after like college I was gonna start going into law school, but like then I had to like really start the working world, and then like I kind of moved out, and then like life started happening. So like sitting here listening to everybody talk about law and everything, I kind of feel like I'm a little bit behind. And then like hearing about like the process of it is a little bit like nerve wracking all over again now.
Oh, I was gonna say I can answer this too. Girl, you are not behind. I promise you, you are right on time. And I know for my class specifically, there were mothers in there, there were people who were married, there were people who worked on Wall Street, came back and was like, I'm bored. I want to get another degree. When I say one of my closest friends, he's 50. His name is Kevin. That's my dog. When I say we were just talking on the phone yesterday, there's no age limit, especially on this. And I think the older you are, your experiences will be so helpful. Like no regrets, but if I would have took a gap year and like I think took some time to learn myself as a woman, as a Black woman, and just the struggles, like I got into therapy once I got to law school. I didn't know that there was a lot more that I had to learn developing into a woman. So I think your experiences of you being a little bit older will really help you with this and help you navigate this process more effortlessly than anybody else, if I'm being honest.
That's so good. Thank you, Tamia. We have another question from Tehani.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Tahani Umar, and I'm an undergraduate student at the University of North Texas studying criminal justice. And while I'm still a first year, I want to get a head start on the application process. And since I'm first gen, I don't have like much guidance on how to apply for law school. What are certain things that I can do in undergrad to help me prepare and look appealing in my law school applications? And I also heard you guys emphasize on how important it is to apply to HBCU just for that extra connections. And I wanted to ask, since like HBCU, although it's good, it is very costly. So what are certain opportunities that you know that could help pay for the cost for HBCU? Thank you.
Any one of the panelists can answer this question.
I hate to be that person to go. Jordan, I'll let you go because I'm like, I've been yapping. I got a lot of
That's
stuff
why
to
I said
say.
the same thing. No, I would definitely, especially because I understand completely, considering also too, like I'm a first gen law student, didn't know what I was doing or how to navigate it. I would highly emphasize the LSAC Plus program. It helped me so much, just really get exposure and having like instant mentors. We were able to go to like for 4 weeks to a law school campus, and that's where they not only just talk to us about like law school courses, but they talk to us about everything like the difficulties, the mindset switch that you'll have to go through once you get into the law school space. So I can definitely like put that again in the chat, but I would emphasize programs like that. I think there are also other programs if you look on the LSAC page that give you that opportunity to really get exposure, because it does look it becomes very daunting if you don't understand anything. You're just trying to navigate everything, but it's great that you're already thinking about it so early. I definitely feel like that's something I did as well when I was because I'm also K through JD, and so I was trying to figure out all of this during undergrad, and it was a lot. So going and finding those resources so that you're reinventing the wheel and not necessarily starting from the ground up, but trying to get exposure on everything will definitely be helpful. I will also say too, utilizing LinkedIn as well to look for scholarships. I know that that was how I was able to find the scholarship that I'm in right now. I also on the outside serve as a Marshall Motley Scholar. And so with that program, it does provide the cost of attendance so that I'm able to attend any law school of my choice. But like having scholarship opportunities like that, or through other scholarships, you can type in scholarships for aspiring law students or scholarships for one else, and like utilizing LinkedIn to not only have a networking space, but also to find a bunch of scholarships will help with that financial cost as well.
I do want to add one thing. I'm sorry. But to Jordan's point about scholarships, because I feel like people are really sleeping on scholarships. When I say I mass applied to so many scholarships before I got to Howard, and I got almost, I'm not gonna say all of them, but I got 9 scholarships, y'all, because people are not applying. And I've had professors reach out and be like, well, only 2 people apply for this scholarship. We need more people to apply. And I was one of those people. I would reach out to churches. My church gave me like 3 scholarships back to back to back. The ABA has a scholarship too. It's like a legal opportunity scholarship, and they give me like 5,000 every semester. That's something you want to do. Access Lex is a platform for specifically for law students, incoming law students, 3Ls, whoever, and they have a list of like programs. And I would say take advantage of that. Like, because I'm telling you, the scholarships is where people sleep on. And also big law firms, they have scholarships specifically for HBCU students. I know Goodwin Proctor, I was a recipient of that scholarship, and it was like $15,000. So they're really big. Well, I don't know what it's looking like now because of Trump, but I know some firms do have diversity scholarships, and they will prioritize students who go to HBCUs.
Yes, so rack up on the scholarships, ladies. I'm gonna try to write them down and post it later today on our page. I believe Aaliyah Lawrence, you had a question, but your hand went down. Did you still want to ask?
She kind of mentioned it. But yeah, I was gonna ask about the merit-based scholarship. And by the way, thank you guys for joining us today. I was just gonna ask, did any of you guys had the merit-based scholarship, or like if you did, did you ever lose it, or did you ever like gain it throughout like your 2L year or your 3L year, or how did it like work out for you? And how did you also stay above the curve?
You can go ahead to me. I know you want to answer it.
I'm like, dang. I did. Well, I still do have the merit scholarship at Howard, and I think it's weird with the curve thing. I think you just got to stay on it, honestly, because I've seen people lose their scholarship, and that's just the reality of what the curve is. Some people, like, they have a set amount of D's they have to give to somebody. So just try to make sure you're not one of those people. And that goes to reaching out to your mentors, getting on your outlines, going to the professor and seeing what they want so you can make sure you stay above that curve. But Yeah.
I did want to add this in as far as like preparation for the LSAT and everything because I would suggest that y'all look into getting your LSAT fee waived. That's what I did. And of course, there are certain requirements that you have to meet to be eligible for that waiver, but that is something that I would suggest y'all look into and try to take advantage of because that test it was like 150 when I took it, but I'm sure it's going up now. So yeah.
Yes, I think it's 238 now. So we have a question from Zoe Schaefer. You can go ahead, Zoe.
Hi, thank you all for coming out to speak today. So I thought I heard it was a Clark Atlanta alum. Okay, so yeah, I'm a third year student, criminal justice major, sociology minor at Clark Atlanta. And I wanted to ask, like, how do you feel that Clark Atlanta helps you manage your process into law school, such as like the LSAT and things of that nature?
I'm gonna be completely transparent with you, girl. It was rough. It was rough. Like y'all have it so much better now. I don't know if you know Attorney Davis, the pre-law program that they have there. That's gonna help you. Attorney Davis is who got me into law school, if I'm being honest. Like he took my hand and was like, "This is the LSAT. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to pass." He looked over my personal statements. He wrote my letters of rec. So I would say make sure you stay under his wing because he's gonna make sure you get into law school and he's going to push you to be your best self. So that's all I had, if I'm being honest with you. And I have one of my best friends. We studied together. We set our plans together. We applied together. We did everything together. So if you don't have that like sense of like community or resources, because I know Clark is kind of working towards getting there, find your person and y'all hold each other accountable and y'all make sure y'all get through that process together. And that's how I did it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I know him.
Okay, I think we had a question from Emma Anane next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining. I know everyone's saying that, but y'all are really dropping gems that I've never really heard at all the pre-law seminars and webinars that I've been on. So thank you so much. And I love that this is a Christian centered discussion as well. So I'm currently working full time while trying to study for the LSAT, and I wanted to know if anyone could speak to their experience or if they know any friends or family members who've done a similar trajectory and if they have any tips on how to do it. I'm also not working in a legal area. I'm working more corporate life sciences, and it's kind of daunting that I feel like all my pre-law friends are working in the legal area and I'm not. So I want to know if you guys had any tips or advice on how to navigate this era of my life.
Hi, I don't mind taking this one because like I feel like I was kind of like in the same boat essentially in undergrad because I was trying to study while also being a full-time student. And I'll be fully transparent. I experienced burnout because on top of that, I was heavily involved in my undergrad and I didn't know how to say no and I really didn't know my boundaries at the time. And also too, I didn't really have any legal experience. I didn't do any internships at like a firm or anything before applying. And so I was coming from, in my eyes, like I didn't have the experience that I wanted. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And so in those moments, I really tried not to compare. And that's something like a constant battle that even in law school, you'll have to just like kind of reinforce and saying like comparison is really the thief of joy. Because in a lot of those spaces, I was like not even focusing on just like myself and my study schedule. And I was literally, I remember telling myself, I was like, well, X person is doing this, so I need to do this. And it's not even asking myself, well, do you want to do this? Do you want to apply and do an internship at a firm? Or would you rather be focusing on your passion area? Would you rather be doing a voter registration drive or something like that? And so I wish I had reinforced and asked myself those questions because I definitely know that I wouldn't have experienced burnout if I wasn't focusing so much on worrying about or just emphasizing what other people's journey in the legal field looked like and just really realizing I think it was in that moment I realized like the legal journey, like everybody's journey to getting into law school and getting it through law school is going to look so different. And so also too with studying that taught me like I'm not going to study like everyone else. All of my mentors before when I just started out were telling me like, oh, you need to study 20 hours a week or 20 plus hours or else it's done, it's a wrap. And I was really having that pressure automatically like structured in my head, like if I'm not hitting this amount of hours, I'm going to fail. And I should have just been saying, let me just focus on myself. How do I digest the material? Making sure that it was in a way that I understood it. And so sometimes it didn't take me 20 hours to get the material like it took someone else. And it was in those moments that I realized, like, what works for them isn't going to work for me. I might catch on to something faster than what somebody else says. And it was like, that was how I was able to balance out my study schedule while still being a full-time student. Because once I was able to switch gears and just focus on, let me study for as long as I need to study, not how long someone else needs to study, I was able to balance it out with all my other commitments.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm sure that answered your question, Emma. Our next question is from Jahala Douglas.
Hi everyone, my name is Jayla. I'm a senior at Temple University, and my question is relatively similar to the previous question. But as someone who wants to apply straight through, how did you manage to navigate the application process along with classes and senior year extracurriculars such as clubs, responsibilities, internships, and jobs?
I can tackle this question. So, for my senior year at Georgia State University, I was a president of two orgs, and same with junior year. So, what I did was I honestly just scheduled it out. Like, I not only just looked at all the schools that I wanted to apply to and just looked at all the deadlines, but I also spoke to other law students, other lawyers on like, okay, how do I do this process? Because I was also like a first generation applicant as well. So it was really just kind of just going to what I've been preaching this whole entire time is like getting a really good like calendar and getting a really good schedule. Like you want to apply by like November, you want to apply by this date, like, okay, you just need to make sure that, like, okay, I have 4 classes I'm taking. On Saturday, I'm just going to take 20 minutes to do this part of the application cycle. And then eventually, by the time you're just going to make it to your deadline.
Thank you, Kimberly. We had a question in the comments from Asia Clark. Her mic isn't working, but she asked, should I get new letters of recommendation and change my entire personal statement for this upcoming cycle? She didn't get accepted last cycle, so she wants to know if she should change her application around and make everything new, basically. Does anyone want to answer that question?
I don't mind answering that. I would definitely say, like, it kind of goes to just how you feel about the letter of recommendation. Because I always emphasize don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. And in some cases, like, it could be what was said in that letter of recommendation that can strengthen you this application cycle. So I would definitely just say, like, take the opportunity if you can to just, like, really assess with yourself and ask, like, holistically, do you think that this helped or hurt in my application? Just kind of having those self-awareness questions for yourself will definitely give you the decision of understanding if you should try and revise your letter of recommendations or seek new letter of recommendations. I always emphasize, like, I think that it really helps if you have a letter of recommendation from a professor. So maybe that can also help with trying to determine if you should. If last year, if you didn't have a letter of recommendation from a professor, but you can this year, then I would definitely encourage like swapping out in that instance. But it really just goes to if you feel like it helped or hurt your application last semester, or not last semester, last year.
I wanted to add on to that question because I'm in a similar situation. So for the letters of recommendation that I got, you know how law schools will ask you to waive the right to see them. So sometimes you don't have the opportunity to know what was even written on the letters. So how do you navigate, like, should I get new ones? Should I just trust that it was done correctly the first time? I've heard horror stories of law school admissions counselors saying that they've received letters of rec that say, hey, this person literally like harassed me for this letter, so I'm just here to do this. It wasn't really good letters. So how do we navigate like not being able to see that? Like, should we just trust the process or just go with our gut?
I can.
I
Oh, sorry. My bad, girl.
You guys
No,
can.
you can, yeah, you can chime in for sure. My bad.
I can speak to this because I think for letters of rec, you really want somebody who can speak truly to who you are. And I know every person who wrote my letter of rec, we talked it through. Like they showed me before they even submitted it to the LSAT because they wanted to highlight portions of me that I wanted them to see. So they're like, okay, so I talked to, this is what I have so far. What other skills do you feel like I should highlight more for you and that you think would be helpful? So you should have that dynamic with the person who's writing your letter of rec. And if you don't, I feel like I wouldn't say you shouldn't use them if that's your last resort, yeah, but I feel like you should have a person who knows you through and feel comfortable with working through that process with you because it's for you at the end of the day. So that's all I can add.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was going to be my point. Because I was already under the assumption, because when I was seeking out letter recommendations, I made sure that I was able to see what they were writing, and because I like built that relationship. So that can also help if you're trying to just determine if you should keep them. If you feel like you don't have that relationship with the person, that can definitely help kind of make the decision for you, because you really want to have someone who can accurately and give specific, like just talking points about you.
Thank you guys. I think that Hawa, I'm not sure if she's still on. Hawa Adisa had a question.
Hi, yes, I am still on. So, yes, my name is Hawa. I'm a senior at Texas A&M University of San Antonio. I do some work with SGA, ACM, and other establishments, but I am very grateful for Jada hosting this event and having the opportunity to meet you guys. You ladies are very knowledgeable, so it's a little bit like jaw dropping. But my question does pertain to the subject at hand. I did have something that came in mind, but my original question was in regard to the LSAT. So, in with you guys' experience, how much would you say the LSAT took away on your or weighted on your application? And if you think it is a significant weight, would you prescribe, if you don't score what you want to score, to wait another year and reapply again, take the LSAT again and reapply? Or how would you go about not receiving what you were expecting on the LSAT?
I can answer this question. So I was kind of in a similar boat. I actually, like I said before, I took the LSAT 3 times, and the second time I didn't pay so that they could like hide the score. And my second score actually was lower than my first. And I had a moment where I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Am I just gonna like stop here and try again next cycle, or am I just going to apply with what I got? And honestly, I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna just play with what I got. And not only did I get into half of the schools that I applied to, but I was given like literally at least 5 scholarships with all of my acceptances. So it's honestly what I feel you want to do. My first goal was that I just want to be in law school as soon as possible, and that's what I just decided to do.
Thank you, Kimberly. We have a question. Oh, did you have something else to add, Hawa?
If you don't mind, briefly with the letters of recommendation. So I am a little bit at a, let's not say about me, but other ladies might also be facing something similar. But in regards to letter of recommendation, should the title or position someone has hold a huge weight in that? For example, if you work with someone more directly, but their title might not be as huge in comparison to someone you don't work with directly, would you weigh it differently, or who should you at the end of the day follow with or proceed with?
I'm gonna be honest. I say this is my me personally, I would go with the person who can really speak to my character. Because I've had instances where I worked with someone who was a state legislator and she had only a short paragraph to say, like, in regards to my character. But then I worked with someone at my church and I interned for them. And when I say she wrote a great story about me, I was reading it like, dang, this is me. And I think I put that over the legislator easily, because I think when we're talking about your application, they want to know who you are and who you are as it pertains to other people too. So if this person can speak so highly of me, it kind of boosts you, rather than the person who's a state legislator but only has a paragraph. It's like, it kind of hurts you, if anything. So I would say whoever can speak to your character more, honestly.
Thank you, Tamia. The next question is from Madison Rhodes.
Hi, ladies. Thank you all again for hosting today. It's been really insightful. A little about me, I'm a junior at Savannah State University. I'm the president of our pre-law association, which is fairly new to the university. So a question that I would have for you all would be, what type of events could our pre-law association host that would help our members with resumes in terms of things that we're doing on campus or involved with? Of course, we have a set annual schedule, but it's more so like meeting with local professionals in political science arenas or public administration, nothing really too much catered to law. So we are, like I said, new, and I would just like to see, like, what are some events that we should be hosting, or that would kind of help with our members and how it would look on our resumes.
Yeah, I don't mind taking this because I actually also served as like the president of my pre-law chapter in undergrad. And so big thing that we tried to do was make sure that our advisor was a professor that also is like knowledgeable on like the law school like admissions process, because I always emphasize a professor because like they can really vouch for your writing skills. And in a lot of cases, like when you're applying to law school, they want to also know that you can write, because once you'll realize in law school that it's a lot of writing that we do outside of just like the oral advocacy. We do a lot of writing. And so I really emphasize the having those professors because they can share a lot of gems. During my time, we also tried to do opportunities. I was sending cold emails literally to like these pre-law platforms like LSAT Demon, Seven Sage, the Blueprint, and asking them if they could do like a virtual event with us and kind of talk to us and share like their feedback on, like, we had a conversation about fee waivers. And we're really just trying to drive ways. And I was talking with like my fellow e-board is saying, what do we think can help us easily and more accessibly apply to the law school? And so that was kind of my vision when I served as president, was not only just exposing us to the legal field, but finding ways and having like these panel sessions or lunch and learns so that we could talk to people about what is the easiest and most cost efficient route to get to apply to law school. Because usually that's the biggest barrier, is just even how can we afford to apply to law school. And any opportunity where we could partner and have someone on, they would even possibly be like, oh, well, we'll offer you guys like X amount of days for you all to use this platform. So it kind of like was a win-win because we got more members who were interested, and we also were able to supply them with these resources that the platform was willing to offer.
I also wanted to chime in and give a suggestion because I recall when I was an undergrad, I attended a personal statement workshop and resume workshop that was provided through our pre-law organization. So that's also a suggestion. And I think the lady who hosted that workshop was a part of admissions at LSU Law. So that's a suggestion that I would have.
Okay, thank you, Renaya and Jordan. Did we have any more questions from the audience? Just gonna take a few more if there are any. I'm just gonna give you guys a second.
I think someone had a question in the chat. Tina.
Oh, yes, I see it here. Okay, so Tina wants to know, How does she navigate reapplying this cycle if you were waitlisted last cycle? She was waitlisted but not accepted, and she's trying to decide what changes to make, if any, to her applications. She's thinking of adding an additional letter of rec, retaking the LSAT, maybe doing JD next. And she says, thank you for answering this question.
Okay, so I guess I can chime in on this question too because I applied to 3 law schools, LSU Law, Southern Law, and I also applied to Howard. LSU Law and Southern Law accepted me, but Howard waitlisted me. So I chose the school that accepted me. So I would say there's nothing wrong with reapplying if you're on the wait list. But also, I would say maybe open yourself up and take advantage to some other opportunities if they are available to you.
Did anyone else want to chime in before I end the questions?
I think the only other thing I'll say is like when you get in that phase of like either getting waitlists or realizing that you have to reapply for the next cycle, to just remember that they look at the application holistically. And so maybe just having like self-assessment moments for like how could I beef up or amplify my personal statement? How could I amplify my letter of recommendations? Not so much as the LSAT, because in a lot of cases, like because they view it holistically, it could be one of those writing supplements instead of the LSAT. I mean, we don't know specifically how the admissions team, how they create their decisions, but it just helps you out more if you're able to just go in and find ways to enhance all of your material instead of just one specific element or platform to it all. Like the LSAT, don't get me wrong, we should definitely emphasize that. And like if you can retake it again just to increase your score, but also see maybe I could like get my personal statement reviewed by a professor who has like see if I could use like better language or if there's a better phrase I could use to tailor whatever message I'm trying to get across. Like anyway, so that you're just enhancing everything entirely and not so much just the LSAT, if that makes sense.
I also want to add one more thing. Everything they said to the T, but also consider when you're applying too, because I know some people at Howard got waitlisted. A lot of it came from when they applied. I know some people applied late January, March, and they already accepted most of the people early December, early January. So a lot of it had nothing to do with their application, but more so like, oh, we already filled the slots up. So I would say next cycle, keep that in mind too when you apply.
Thank you. We have a question from Hawa Adisa again.
Sorry. I feel like I'm asking too many questions as I try to like put it all in one. But pertaining to what Miss Jordan was saying, um, would you feel it wise to potentially, like again with the LSAT score, even though I've never taken the LSAT, I find it very intimidating. So if I were, let's generalize it. If someone were to not get the score that they wanted, would you feel it wise to go and get a master's or add some type of certification under your belt and then apply rather than just apply with what you have? And because again, you were saying that they look at it holistically, but just to heighten your odds, would you feel it wise to postpone your application or just apply with what you have in the moment?
Well, oh, I was gonna say, I could start. I would definitely highly encourage getting a master's, especially because we love to have the accolades and we love to like we gotta show it off. You're gonna know I am an educated Black woman, and so like I think that that's an amazing idea. Like I always give my flowers to my fellow classmates because like as it's already been mentioned, like you're gonna be going to class with people who are not just like in their early 20s. There's going to be people in their late 20s or in their 30s, and like that's completely comfortable. That's when you meet the best people. And so like you hear about their incredible stories and their journeys, and I actually think that it could make you look competitive if you're able to showcase having a master's on top of that application. So I think that's an amazing strategic route to go about your application like while you're applying. And if you're in like a gap year, like taking that opportunity to say I'm going to get a master's, that's ways that you can enhance your application. Like that looks incredible on a resume in my opinion and for what I've heard. And so I think that's a great idea. But I'll leave it at there and allow other people to chime in.
I would say I agree. If you're taking a gap year and you didn't get in, granted, stack your resume as much as you can so you make sure the next time you do it, you get in. But I'll also say shoot your shot. You never know. I kid you not. I know one of my close friends, she graduated from Clark. Somebody might know her. Her name is Christina. She got into Harvard. She showed me her stats. They were not what you expect to get into Harvard, but her personal statement was great. And I think you really should just trust yourself, shoot your shot. You never know. Your personal statement might outweigh your LSAT. You might have challenges you went through, and they look at your LSAT like, damn, well, if she went through all of this and was able to at least produce that, I know she's going to do good in law school. So I would say trust yourself, apply. And if you don't get in, then pivot to plan B, but don't sell yourself short because the LSAT may not be everything for certain schools. It's really about your story and where you came from and how you got here and your perseverance and your resilience that will get you into a law school of any caliber, Ivy League, HBC, whatever. So I would say just shoot your shot first.
Yes, I'm definitely gonna shoot my shot. I believe that is all the questions that we have from the audience. I just want to say thank you so much again to our panelists for joining us today. I'm super grateful for you guys coming on and sharing these gems with us. For the audience and for the ladies who registered and were not able to make it on today, I will post clips on our Instagram of the most popular questions, or I will post the full entire Zoom on YouTube later this week. So I will let everybody know when the link goes out. But thank you all again for being here, all the Juris girls who are on. Thank you guys so much. I have so many other events coming soon. To put on you guys' calendar, we have a personal statement workshop coming up on September 13th, and it's going to be with Becoming JD. Anthony Denmark, he's an amazing admissions counselor. So that's already booked. That's going to be in, I believe, 2 weeks. So I'm going to release the flyer tomorrow. So yes, thank you guys again for being here. I'm super excited and I hope that everybody has an amazing, amazing application cycle. I know that the panelists are here. If you have any other questions, I linked everybody's Instagram. So feel free to connect, like they said, make sure you're professional, take all these gems and run with it. So yes, until next time, ladies, I'll see you guys all soon. Bye.